Hi, everyone. My name is Julie Stigmeyer, and I work with the Graduate School of Education and Psychology at Pepperdine University in writing support. Today, I wanted to highlight the key changes from the 6th to 7th editions of the APA Style Guide. The purpose for this document and this video is just to help refresh everyone's memories on what things have changed in the last 2 years according to the newer edition of the Style Guide. So I'll just walk you through this document and highlight those key changes. There's a table of contents here where you can click on these links that will jump you to those sections in the document. And there's a little information about why we use APA 7, which is really helpful for proper attribution to scholarly work and to really present professional scholarly papers. If you need your own copy of the publication manual, you can get a paper or digital copy by looking at these links. And if you need writing support, you can look at these links. So the first set of changes are focused on the title page. The title page now has 7 elements for student papers. And by the way, I will be describing only student papers in this video. There are separate requirements for publication for professional papers that would be sent out for publication. But for our purposes, I'll be focusing on student papers. And here are the changes. And then this is a sample student paper, like the top 2/3 of the page. So you can see how they look in this sample. So first of all, at the top of the page, there's now no running head. That used to be a feature of the 6th edition, but for student papers, it is no longer required. So at the top of the page at flush right is the page number beginning with page 1. Then a little bit, about 1/3 of the way down the page, you put your title, which is centered, bolded, and in title case. There's a blank line, and then your name, the student's name, the institution or university, the course number and name, the professor's name, and the date. So that is how the title page should look. And as you notice here, there are lots of links in this document. So you can directly go to a sample student paper or even download it to get the full understanding of how it should look. The second set of elements we're going to look at is the first content page, which typically for student papers begins on page 2. At the top of the page, you're going to include that title one more time, bolded, centered, and in title case. Please note that according to APA, you do not need to use the word introduction. It's understood that this text is your introduction since it's at the beginning. Now let's take a look at references. So the reference page, notice it's still all double spaced. There's still a page number. So the whole document is double spaced. And at the top of the reference page is references is bolded and centered. And then the 2 major changes from the 6th edition include using the hyperlink for the DOI. So instead of putting like capital DOI colon and then the number, which appears here, you would actually just put the hyperlink to the entire, the whole hyperlink. And it should be blue and underlined because that's the default of how it looks as a hyperlink in Word. So that's a major change. The other change is that for books, this is a journal article, but for books, you don't need to include the city and state of the publisher. You only need to include the publisher's name. For in-text citations, a couple of changes are important to note. The first major one is the use of et al. So now for citations of 3 authors or more, you only use the first author's surname and the word et al. It used to be that for the first mention, you had to include all the authors or like up to 5 authors. Now you just put et al. After the first author's last name, and then the year. And it's the same whether it's a parenthetical or narrative citation. And just notice the period that comes after the all. That's an abbreviation. So we put a period there no matter how it appears. Another thing that I get frequent questions about are the concepts of under citation and over citation. And you may not have heard of those terms, but if you think about it, it's pretty obvious. So under citation means making a claim, even paraphrasing from research, but not adding attribution or citation to that piece of research. So that could lead to plagiarism and or questions about academic integrity. So we want to make sure that we are citing sufficiently, and this will link you to the APA guidelines on appropriate citation. But the other thing to consider is we're kind of walking a line between making sure we're not underciting, but also making sure we're not oversighting. Oversitation means that within one paragraph, if you are referring to only one source, you do not need to put a citation at the end of every sentence. That would be considered oversitation. Instead, this is the guideline. If ideas from only one source within a paragraph are discussed, you will need to cite only once within the paragraph at the first mention. A lot of times, I think I was taught too, that it's actually, okay, you can cite all through the paragraph and at the end put an attribution. But that's the opposite with APA. What you should do is at the first mention, add your in-text citation, and then as long as it's clear you haven't changed sources, you shouldn't need to recite. The next section in the manual is about bias-free language, and I really encourage you to look at all the guidelines at this link. There's a lot of great information there. And so I just added some of the information here as a shorthand. So precision is very essential in academic writing. And the reason why is because we want to just make sure that we are utilizing the proper terminology for person-centered and inclusive language. And since with the psychology students that I work with, there's a lot of discussion in papers about cultural backgrounds, different population groups, it's really important that we understand how to use terminology to capture those ideas. So you can notice here that precision, being precise, is what's really important. So for example, for Alzheimer's disease, so use the name of the condition, Alzheimer's disease, instead of categories of conditions like types of dementia or general references. So you'll notice throughout these descriptions, don't be general, but be precise. For example, Chinese Americans instead of Asian Americans. So that's the new guideline there. Another guideline refers to the singular they, and this is a bit of a problem with the English language because we have no gender neutral singular third person. So it would be he or she, or him or her. But in this case now, the new guideline is to use they as the singular. This would be plural, but now it's considered singular. So these are two examples that show that. The last highlight I'd like to bring up is to make sure that you are referring to numbers or numerals correctly. And there are many guidelines under those, but the main idea here is numbers 10 and above are expressed as numerals, unless at the beginning of the sentence. So here are examples. You would have 5 members written out because it's under 10, but 12 as numerals because it's over 10. But there are many other guidelines here, and except, here's 22 embedded in the sentence as a numeral, but we write out 22 in words at the beginning of the sentence. So those are some of the main guidelines. That's certainly not everything, but those were some of the main things that were updated from the 6th to 7th editions. There are many other links you can take a look at here to help you figure out, how to get to these different areas of the manual online, and that will help you to see more full explanations. And if you need to get in touch with our writing team, you can reach out here. Until next time, happy writing.